beds. You need to give time and the contact of the roots to the with the sludge water, so that it will keep sucking the sludge and purifying your water in the process. That's a reed bed. It's also called phytoremediation because it uses plant to purify the grey water or a black water, and that is it called phytoremediation or reeds bed system. Fair enough, Ambika?
Thank you.
Yeah. We will get you more maybe drawings just to show you how the reed beds look like and things like that. So you'll have a clearer picture. What purposes can rainwater collected in urban systems be used for? You can use it for your car washing, your landscaping, your cleaning of certain areas within your societies or premises. Then you can also use it for your plantations, like pot plants and things like that. It's fine. Fine.
Anything
Shall I?
that's not human use, right?
No,
Basically.
nothing. Yeah, other than portability, everything you can, like, you want to
Can
wash, you want to
yeah.
clear
Can
your
animals drink it, or is
temperature.
it unsafe for them as well? If it can be treated and used for giving water to animals?
Yeah, animals, if you see, they can easily drink it, no? Because any which ways they are drinking much more dirtier water which has been exposed, either on the roads or your stormwater
Right,
gutters, or those
right,
puddles that are there. They have been drinking it and they have been fine with it.
right.
So
But like in terms
yeah,
of like treating it
and the
and just
pets,
out of
and
yeah,
if it's the pets, the care of the pet is so much that no one is going to give them that water. Whatever you drink, you're going to give your pet.
no,
Otherwise,
actually
you're not with the
my
pets,
area
right?
has a lot of stray dogs. So for them, I was planning to integrate them into the
Perfectly
program
fine. It
in
shouldn't be a
other ways. Perfectly fine.
yeah, what the idea of the payout is there, Pawan. How
So your
also,
voice is
uh,
out.
hello. There is a
Hello?
sound actually, background sound is. Can you hear me now?
Possible disturbance from me. One sec. I'll just.
Okay.
Okay, sorry,
Sorry.
sorry.
Sorry, Swati. Yeah. So, Shravan, what I was saying that you should actually explore the idea of the pyao. Pyao is this, nothing but water dispensers, traditional water dispensers which are there. Okay. And those traditional water dispensers are very helpful in terms of the animal as well as for the human. So, you can actually look at the history of pyos in Mumbai, especially. Okay,
And it's
can
it's
we
allowed
start
here.
now? It's 57 only students, but I don't know why everyone else is not there. Good enough, fair enough, guys. Should we start now with the presentation? Any more questions you all have?
Yeah, just one doubt about
Yes,
read.
Nainika, sure.
Yeah, in a few pictures I saw that there are multiple read beds, like in vertical read bed. So how do we decide that number or the size of one bed?
Uh, there is, depending on the capacity. We will give you those calculations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Welcome. Uh, okay. Swati, should we start now? Let's finish
Yes.
rainwater and get into the, yeah, so that, okay. I think it's recording, so you can start, please. Thank you.
I had a doubt.
Yes,
Yeah, so
that,
are there any there are supposed to be any calculations for that rainwater harvesting tank, right? So
yes.
what will those be?
We have not yet finished, Aradhya. Just have patience. We'll give you those calculations.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Don't worry. It's a simple equation. It's a equation that you need to follow. It's a simple multiplication fact and division. So don't worry about it. It's nothing very difficult as such.
Okay.
We'll finish the traditional water systems today, and then we will get onto it.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Is there too much disturbance from my end, or is it
No,
clear?
now it's fine. Now it's not happening. I think it must be
Okay.
the sometimes your headphones do that. So,
Yeah.
Aishwarya, you
So
raised your hand. Sorry, Swati. I think Aishwarya raised her hand. That's why I'm like,
yes.
Yeah. No, nothing. Please start.
Okay. So in continuation from what we saw last time in terms of, the various traditional methods of rainwater harvesting, what we're looking at and what we thought we could include ahead in the lecture was that, we look at the terrain of Hampi, and then some of the structures there also have adopted a system where the water is being used within the structure to kind of cool the entire structure, and works as a passive cooling system. So we look at the terrain first, look at what are the systems that have been adopted traditionally in the larger kind of landscape, and then we will go into one of the projects, one of the buildings. um, so Hampi as such is also a very it's a rocky kind of a boulder terrain. Also depends a lot on the rainwater first, but also has the Tungabhadra river, which is kind of passing through. And as you see in this map, on this map, this is Hampi, okay, and it's a world, UNESCO heritage site. And what we have is that you see that there are various water bodies that you see on plan. So basically, they are reservoirs which are tapping the water throughout the landscape. And basically the reservoir, the larger Tungabhadra reservoir, has canal connections which are running across. So these that you see, if you kind of follow them, you'll realize that those are the canals. So Hampi as such has a very large network of canals and aqueducts which have been designed initially, in the Vijayanagar dynasty. And that kind of very, very dense network supplies water and ensures that the entire settlement has always had water through the year and never had an issue. Um, Now, what we are essentially looking at this point, has the map changed for you? Yes. Okay. So, what we are looking at is the main complex, which has the Virupaksha temple at Hampi. And there is a stepwell called the Pushkarni stepwell. Now, because, this is a World Heritage Site, and the Archaeological Survey of India had come in and wanted to start to understand what this is. Most of the structures or the historical monuments, a lot of them have been destroyed over time because of invasion, etc. But but there are certain step wells and the water systems which are still in place, and some of them are things that we are learning from as well. So some architects who are working with the Archaeological Survey of India have kind of gone in and studied how the whole water system works, and something that we can learn from and maybe even adopt in the way that we work in our projects. So as such, that like you're seeing, this is a boulder terrain. It's kind of this sculpted rock landscape which naturally exists, and then you have a lot of these stone structures which have been built, some of them destroyed, but that's essentially what the whole landscape of Hampi is about. This is one of the stepwells that I had shown you last class. We'd seen it, and what you see here, it is actually another image which shows you the aqueduct which is running. So there are these stone kind of aqueducts running across the entire landscape, and they are kind of creating this network. So this is what it is. So this will kind of bring the water in from the larger reservoir and come into the step well. These are the some of the stone aqueducts that exist there. There are many more. I'm just running through the images now to kind of give you a sense of what the whole terrain is about. And you can see the remains of, like, you can see the water from the river. And this is one of the step wells in the larger main complex. This is another step well in the main complex, which is kind of running dry. Yeah, so basically, actually, when the study was taken up again, and people have kind of gone in to understand what was done earlier, it was realized that there were various like detention ponds and percolation pits which were included as a process to kind of tap into this water which is running off the hill. Because this terrain is of the kind of high points and low points. There's water running from the upper level to the lower level. And how does one tap into that to ensure that you're kind of going to be able to use that and supply it to your wells or whichever the main ponds are, which are going to supply to the larger settlements? How are you going to tap into that water and ensure that it's reaching and that the water remains available for the entire year? So basically, what was understood is that the water is running from the upper level to the lower level, so there is essentially that is runoff. But what was adopted is that there is a point of retention and percolation, and then the rest of it is allowed to run off. Now what that does is that whatever your particles or the soil, anything that is the heavier particles that the water is carrying, will also kind of be held back in the percolation pond, and then the rest of it is kind of going to go into the groundwater recharge. What else, what the rest of the water that you have is going to run off and then kind of going to reach down into the step well, and additionally you will also have your rainfall. So what you have essentially is that the runoff water is a little bit of a cleaner water because it has percolated. The soil particles etc have also been stopped at all your percolation pits or the catchment areas, and the cleaner water kind of reaches your pond, and then the rest of it gets filled by your rainfall that you're getting every year. And essentially what this does is also that the percolation in the groundwater has increased, and eventually that could also feed into your step well that you have created. So that was something that was noticed, and that was allowing you to kind of keep the whole landscape alive and thriving for the next 1 year. And essentially there was no problem in terms of what people were needing in terms of the use that they required through the year. Now if so that is largely the entire system which was understood. And I think this is just one section that has come up from one of the studies, but this probably is something that has been multiplied and been kind of done across the landscape in many places. So some of the areas are also being revitalized now to make sure that the step wells are kind of refilled and can be used again in the entire water system. So I'll just stop here to take any questions or discussion that you all want to take forward. And Kimaya, if there's anything that you would like to add or correct from what I've said, please.
No, I'm good. Unless and until there are any questions, then they can ask. Guys, please ask questions if you've not understood any terms and things like that.
Is it clear? Should we move ahead?
I think it's clear now. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask for the detention pond or the retention pond, like what's the minimum slope that we need to maintain if it's not in a hilly or a contour region?
Come again? I didn't understand what.
Yeah, for the retention or the detention pond, what's the minimum slope that we would require if it's not in a hilly or a contour region?
See, there is no particular slope unless it's not a hilly and a contour region. It's just a depression so that it holds the water. The whole idea of the detention and the retention pond is to hold the water, right? And the excess overflows. So then you just need to give a particular depth depending on how much surface area that you're catering to.
Okay, fine.
Okay? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. There is one more question, I think. Swati, one sec, I'll read it out.
Yeah.
Is there any way of taking the water from the percolation pit to the rainwater treatment plant? So you can actually, sorry, yeah, Swati, please go ahead.
No, so if this is about in today's scenario, if we're talking about it, then the population pits essentially we're always kind of building it in a certain there is some kind of a masonry structure to it, and then the rest of it is being percolated into the ground. And the percolation pit is always connected to another pit, or whichever tank that you're taking it to. So in that sense, there will be a pipe connection which will allow you to kind of take that forward if required. So depending on how you're kind of planning the whole um, uh, uh, site, I think it's possible to take it. But yeah, it also depends on how the whole
It
water
is,
connection
yes.
and what the intent is. So it's
Yeah.
possible to connect it, but yeah, the intent and how the water, how you're using the water is something that will tell you whether
And
that's possible or not, whether it should be done or not.
also, just to add to it, the construction of the lining of the perforation pit will have to alter then if you're keeping a pipe below.
Hmm.
Okay, because what happens is generally the lining of the perforation pit is a hollow brick construction. So there are already openings through which the water tries to seep into the into the earth's sections. Okay, and here if you want to recharge a particular thing and connect it to the rainwater harvesting tank, then you just need to ensure that it's no more a hollow brick construction completely. Okay. So as Swati rightly said, you will have to basically, depending on the situation, you'll have to decide. Yes, Swati, please continue.
So so then we'll move on to understand one of the uh, interesting buildings in Hampi. So basically, the Hampi is full of many complexes of different kind of structures, and um, what we are looking at is the Zanana enclosure and the Lotus Mahal. So the Lotus Mahal is one of the yeah. So I'll just go through the plan first and then tell you about what this Mahal is about. Now, this is the Lotus Mahal. Essentially, it was called Hawa Mahal also because of this whole passive cooling system that it has, and this was essentially kind of built for the women of the dynasty, and this would also work as a summer palace because of its kind of cooling system. In the summer situation, it would always maintain a temperature which is much more comfortable than what Hampi's temperature rise to. So the women of the empire would usually come here and rest, and kind of also recreational activities would be something that would be taken on here. So this is essentially the complex, and then that's the Lotus Mahal. I think this was also a stepwell. I'm not sure. I think this is where the water for the Lotus Mahal anyway comes from as well. I think there is a connection which then brings the water into the whole pipe system that you have within the um, structure itself. And that's actually the elephant stable that you have. Just a walk down is the elephant stable, which is like 11 elephants, which are the royal elephants, which were taken care of here. Yeah, so that's essentially what this structure is. This is one of the structures which has not faced too much of damage or destruction. It's fairly in a good state, and what you have is this kind of a stone plinth at the bottom, and then this is essentially a brick construction with like lime plaster and some stucco moldings, etc. And then that's your roof. The first floor is usually what was used as a kind of resting part of the palace, and the ground floor was something which was used for recreational activities and get-togethers, etc. This is the stairwell. I mean, this is the staircase which took you up to the first floor, but I mean it's closed, so no one can visit that. We've not seen what the first floor looks like really. Yeah, these are some of the images. So that would be the entrance for the staircase. So that's your ground floor, and that's the kind of archway and arches that are present in the mahal. And these are the elements which are used to keep your diyas, etc. So yes, this I just added to kind of show you what the material of construction is exactly, and that's your brickwork, and then you have your lime plaster over it, which also adds to keeping the structure slightly cooler. And maybe Kima can add a little bit more to kind of explain how that works further. So that's your section and plan, and essentially you have your nine kind of steps which are sticking out, and what you see here in terms of the pillars is that it's hollow, so that's where your pipe system runs. I will show you some of the images where you can see the pipes that they have also opened up to see that that's kind of running within the structure. So essentially what you have is that I think the step well there was something that kind of supplied the water, and then you have the water which is taken through pipes across the structure, and along these would be where the pipes would also be running. So within within these I don't know if you call it, yeah, within the beams you will have them running along uh, the dome, and then that's how it would kind of run across the structure. So this is one of the wells within the structure as well. And these are the pipes that you see, so that's kind of running across on all the sides, and that would kind of create that whole system of cooling, because the water is running
Yeah.
through the structure and maintaining the temperature at a lower level at all times.
Okay. So, Swati, should I add it here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
just to, okay, guys, understand the principle. Here it is a part of the radiant cooling system. Okay. Wherein you actually, what happens is over the day, the entire zone structure, okay, absorbs all the heat.
Sorry, Kidna. Should I go to the section? Do you think that would be?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens is during the day, see, this is all the look at the thicknesses because it's stone. It has a high thermal mass as well. Okay. So over the period of the day, the structure is going to absorb the entire heat. But also understand because it's stone, it's going to take a lot of time to absorb. So it actually safeguards it. Now the pipes are actually embedded within the structure so that it starts radiant cooling. So what happens is the pipe is going to lose out the coolness to the structure, and then the structure is going to cool it out to the uh, interiors of the spaces. Are you understanding? And that is how you get very comfortable indoor environments, even in the summers. Yes, Shravan?
So essentially, the stone is doing the actual
Can't
cooling.
hear
The
you.
water in the
Can't hear you.
pipes is just acting as a catalyst.
Can you
Hello?
repeat, please? Can you
On this side.
repeat?
Am I audible now?
Yes, little
So
better.
is the stone doing the actual cooling and the pipes are just acting as a catalyst in this case then?
Yeah, it's almost like how the water becomes like a refrigerant. Okay, the pipe
Mhm.
is carrying the refrigerant and losing it out that coolness to the structure, the stone, and the stone is going to radiate out that
Right.
coldness interiors because interiors with human beings, okay, with lamps and candles and everything, whatever the source of light at that time was, there is a heat which is getting produced. And if you understand the third law of thermodynamics, it will travel, the energy will always travel from higher to the lower till it strikes the balance. The hot plate experiment. If you keep a very hot metal plate next to a
Right.
cold plate,
Right.
the cold plate won't transfer its coldness to the hot plate. It's always the hot plate losing its heat towards the cold plate. And it will keep transferring it till both are at the same temperatures.
Right. So essentially the water is just a cooler element that's kind of facilitating the
Yes,
bring down the average
yes,
heat.
yes. And because the pipes are embedded within the structure through conduction, the uh, uh, it loses out the heat.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Any more questions?
Sorry, but just to clarify, so that
Sure,
essentially
sure.
means that the stone is acting as a facilitator for the
Yes,
pipes to, like, the
yes, it
stone
is.
is
It
doing
is. It is.
absorbing the heat and the pipes are cooling the
Yes,
stone
it is.
in
So
that
that's
sense.
why whenever
Okay,
you
got
go
it.
into these areas which has like even if you look about Bhuj and all these places, Kutch and all, they always have stone plinths or the stone flooring because the stone flooring, even if it's scorching heat outside, your stone flooring is much more cooler, even till 12 o'clock. It's after that it starts becoming, uh, normalize the temperature. But otherwise, the interiors are much more cooler, and that's how people actually in olden days practiced passive design techniques and managed to keep their interiors cool.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks for articulating that. I was um, some of these are just images of the
Yeah.
pipes that are running with it. But I think that's that. I think there's not. We had measured on the Lotus Smile. I was hoping to bring some of those drawings. I think I'll get a hold
I
of that and
think
try and
not
send it.
only stone, the dome also will have bricks, right? As an inner lining.
Yes,
Am I
yes,
right, Swati?
yes, yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. So the mud bricks are also there, no? Because it requires that
Hmm.
coolness to be maintained so that the energy losses are lesser. And
Yes,
mud
yes,
will,
it's
yeah,
there.
mud bricks
The
will always have the humidity, no? The moisture in them. So it will always be cooler. Okay, great.
so that's. I mean, we've come to the end of the
Okay.
presentation. I'm going to stop
Okay.
here.
Any questions till now? So other examples, there are a lot of examples that you could do. People who are in Mumbai should actually go and visit Kaniri caves to understand the rainwater harvesting system in the caves. How they used to actually have like the rock cut architecture has these kinds of cutouts, and how the water used to channel whatever water that used to actually run off over the dome over the cave structure, how they used to channelize with just a like a cut within the surface so that it channelizes the water and gets to these kinds of series of your detention pond, and then your percolation pit and your wells and things like that. So people in Mumbai can do that. There is another example of Nagaur Fort, which is also there. In case you are going to come to school, you can visit the library and get that book, which also has that example, and look at it. Okay. Now you also have to understand that these are few of the examples that we have given you. But if you change states and you change the climatic zones, the way people consume water is very different. Like for example, if you go to the north and you actually look at Meghalaya and Sikkim and these places, they actually have half-cut bamboos, which acts like pipes. And through those bamboos trail, they actually try and get water right from the top notch of the hill to the foothills, and then store it. Yeah, there are different ways and methods as well of water. This we'll be showing you few more examples of how people are been working in terms of water conservation systems, and we'll get you calculations for the next class, which is the Tuesday class, and maybe Thursday we have the test for you. Okay, so in the test we'll do the drainage, and we'll also have few of the rainwater harvesting. It's an MCQ, so don't worry about it. Me and Swati will be around. So, but that is the only way for us to understand how much you have understood, and how much more we need to deep dive into it, just to make you all understand the principles and the fundamentals of these systems. Because later in later classes you won't be in a position to discuss the fundamentals of it. You will always discuss the complexity of the system, and you will be in a better position to discuss the complexity and understand them only when you know the simple fundamentals of the system. that how a simple system works. When you start adding different parameters and elements within that existing system, how things get complicated and how you need to work it out or figure it out. And then the whole part of the calculations of the different things come into play. Fair enough, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions you all have regarding ideas, we can take them now because I think we have still 20 minutes left. So. Yes, Shravan.
So I'm setting up some dry toilets on my site. So that's the reason I was asking you what else can rainwater be used for, because dry toilets are kind of managing themselves. So now I'm
But
mainly
where are you
using
designing? May I ask you, where are you designed?
Mumbai. Mumbai.
Mumbai dry toilets won't work, bacha. The humidity is so high that your toilets are going to stink a lot.
And even wet pipes can't fix this thing.
Yep. And how are you going to travel the waste and things like that? It's not possible. The
I
way
mean,
it works, because otherwise we, with the water stresses, even Chennai would have converted into all dry toilets, no? The kind of water
right,
stresses they are being facing, or
right.
even across the states, people would have converted into dry toilets and conserved the water. It's not possible. You will have fleas, you'll have insects infestation. It will be a horrible mess. Horrible mess. Also, the groundwater table is much more higher, so you'll contaminate the groundwater as well.
Ouch. So something like a bioreactor would work better in my
Yep.
case.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Time to overhaul the whole design for just the bioreactor then. Woohoo.
Okay. I think we had questions in the chat box for us, huh, Swati? Uh, uh, the earlier
There
ones,
a
I think
way?
they had.
Oh, okay, okay.
Uh,
I thought we could. I think you
it's not
answered
here, but
most of the questions.
yeah. No. I was actually, I saw a few of them have actually posted some things for us within the, I think, chat box, right? Or they chat individually. I don't know. I got some pop-ups.
One
Mm,
second, just
okay. Ambika had actually put in. She had doubts regarding her ID. Okay, she wants to know. I'm going with a hydro-pneumatic system that eliminates the need of an OHD. Fine, you can definitely go if it's ground structure or G+1 max. Beyond that, you can't, Ambika. Then municipal water
Yep.
line, fresh water that goes into sink, kitchen area, used flushing process. Okay, that we have answered. In terms of rainwater harvesting, in seasons that it rains, the water travels from the roof gutters to the rainwater harvesting tank, and then it's also used for gardening. Okay, so now what happens is, I think what your question is saying is that over the period of years, over the period of the entire year, you will be require water for the gardening, right? And the monsoon is going for a very specific months, like for say 3 months. Then how am I going to ensure that I have enough water for gardening for throughout the year? Is that your question?
Oh, yes, exactly.
Right? Okay. So what happens is that it all depends on the kind of site that you deal with, okay, and how much space that you have. So ideally, you need to. So whenever we are calculating water for the uh, mm, plantation or irrigation purposes or landscape purposes, there is something which is called a plant factor. So every plant has a capacity to absorb a particular amount of water content. Okay, so depending on that plant factor, you have to calculate the amount of water that you need to uh, you will require to utilize it. Okay, and then you can calculate the amount of water that is required for plantation, and then you can actually look at the entire. So you need to do a back calculation wherein you know that it's in Mumbai. Mumbai has 2,200 rainfall. It happens for 3 months. Okay. Uh, so every day you consider how much is the rainfall, that you get, and then you multiply it to understand how much liters are going to come to your site by multiplying the site area and the roof area. Okay, whenever you're multiplying the site area, make sure whatever is open, okay, to sky is calculated for the site runoffs, and for the roof runoffs, definitely the roofs which are there. Okay. And then you see how much you can collect for that 120 days. Okay, 120 or 90 days. Sorry, not 120 days, 90 days, which is 3 months, 30, 30, 30. Okay, that's how that 90 comes into play. So I think on Tuesday when we do the calculations, it will be much more clearer for you then, Ambika. But this is how you generally do, and you also consider the slope. And then you can actually build the entire tank for it. Or the other way, what people do is they create a bore well, they create a recharge pits next to the bore well, which ensures that there will always continuous water that's going to be there because this entire system is underground. Okay, and it's not very construction extensive, like building this huge tank which is going to be empty for the rest of the year because you're constantly pumping out the water from there, right? So you could actually do that.
Okay, that really helps. So I'll
Yeah.
do research on that. Also, one last question.
Hmm.
For the digester, the vent pipe that I need that basically takes out the methane, which is
Yes.
flammable, what can
Yeah.
be the maximum distance that I can take because I don't want it closer to my structure? Or if I'm connecting it to maybe use it for like cooking gas, because I think Aditya's idea was that.
Yeah. So it is actually directly connected. That methane is directly connected to your, kitchen, so that you use that gas for your cooking. Okay. The only vent pipe that you have is the extra vent pipe, which is the excess gas, which is there.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And the other thing is just make sure that the vent pipe goes much more higher beyond 2.5 meters because it shouldn't happen that a person inhales it when it's walking by. So it's at much more higher. It's 2.5. 2 meters, it's approximately 1.8 meters is 6 feet. So it's beyond that. So beyond 2, 2.5. Somewhere in between you keep it. That it lets out the excess methane. It doesn't have methane, it's the other gases which are there. So they generally have a filter which taps the methane and then channelizes to the cylinder. When I say cylinder, it's the cooking gas cylinder.
Understood. Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Any more questions in my chat box?
How is the roof drainage taken care of when it's a PTFA FE membrane kind of roof? Um,
Um,
it would be the same way, I mean, in a sense that there will be gutters towards the edges, and then that will be taken into a downtake system and carried forward from there. Correct?
yeah,
Because your membrane is not going to be something that's
the
it's going
membrane
to
is
allow
also
the runoff
like a,
to happen.
yeah, happen. It's also it's a vapor barrier, so that your
Hmm.
structure doesn't get the dampness of it. So you have to be very careful when you're designing the roof gardens. Also, what happens sometimes certain plantations also obstruct your structural members. So you need to also have a kind of a root barriers. So you have a vapor barrier as well as the root barriers. Okay. I'm using dry basin. Shravan, when you say dry urinals, you shouldn't say dry urinals. You should talk about waterless urinals.
Sorry, what?
Okay, waterless urinals. You are not
Waterless
doing dry
urinals. Right,
urinals.
yes.
Yes. Okay, they are waterless urinals. Sorry, wherein you actually there are these kinds of gel packets which come in, which helps in cleansing the whole urinal. So what it does it, so you also have to understand when H2O reacts with the urine, it creates these kind of ammonia or the nitrogen smell. Okay, unless and until it doesn't come in contact with H2O, it's fine. So what the gel does is the gel actually absorbs the whole thing. Okay, and it tries to flush it out within the system, and then you don't use water. You only use water after certain usage. So, like for example, if 10 usages of that urinal has happened, then the water will trickle and cleanse the whole system. Then it dries off, and then the next again 10. Those things come in.
So
Okay.
I think this gel, but it still has the same principle of not letting the urine come in contact with
Yes, you're
water.
not using water because yeah, you're not flushing water after every use. So you're conserving a lot of water. It's almost
So
60 to
essentially, the
80%
idea
of
is
you save water. That's the kind of percentage that you achieve using waterless urinals. Because the
right.
designs of waterless urinals are also different. It's not the same fixture that you get. It's not the conventional fixture.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
it has an aerator which makes sure all the droplets are being taken care of.
Right. I'll
Okay.
just send the link to the design or the an article about it if I can find it, so you can also kind of just see what I'm talking about because I don't think I described it very well.
Okay. Yes,
I'm
Aditya,
sorry,
that
Timmy, I'm
that
just going
yeah,
back to sorry, I'm just going back to Pranjal's question. I
sure.
the PTFE membrane, I think, does he mean that it's a tensile kind of roof, or does he mean it's a green roof? Because the
Uh,
PTFE membrane once you
I was
Is
meaning of like a tensile
sorry,
kind of a roof.
then there is
that's
yeah. Yeah. So generally what happens is when you stretch the fabric, okay, you will have to have the downtakes. So depending because it's tensile, you can actually it depends on the different kinds of forms which are there. So you'll
Okay.
always have a downtake. So whether you're going to create like a bowl of a roof or you're going to do like a concave or a convex, depending on that, you'll have to then decide how your downtakes are going to come or how your gutter systems are going to run off. But because the membrane is very smooth and it's a high reflective material, it's not going to retain any droplets on it. Okay, the entire water is going to run off. It's
Right.
just about capturing something that you need to take care of.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah. Sorry, I thought it's about that the membrane which is used as the root barrier and the
yeah,
root
the
this
root
barrier.
barrier.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Aditya, the Nahare Ambari system is also interesting. It's something similar to what Swati just showed us in terms of those detention ponds and the percolation pits and things like that. These are traditional systems of aqueducts which would actually help to channelize water for kilometers uh, ahead.
Yeah.
So that is also interesting. Can constructed wetlands on reed beds be used for black water too? Yes, they can be definitely used for black water too. It's just that the chamber of anaerobic, the settling tank chambers increase because there is a lot of impurity when it comes to black water. Mm, Can you please say that how the biodigester system works? I saw that it's a public toilet by Rohan Chan in Thane. Yeah. So Jinish, in a biodigester, what happens is that it's this huge kind of a tank. Okay, all the sludge comes in. Now, because of the anaerobic kind of digestion that happens, there is a lot of gas which has been produced, and it's mainly methane. And methane is being used for cooking as well at the same time. So, as the gas actually, starts creating and acquiring the space above, that gas is being tapped, okay, and the byproduct that you get is in the form of a sludge, and that sludge can be converted into manure cakes and used for your agricultural purposes at the same time, and then that gas which has been formed is being actually taken for cooking, and taken in this is utilized for cooking. That's how the biodigester system works. Now they will definitely have different kinds of chambers to it and things like that, but yeah, they will definitely have chambers to it. And those chambers are nothing but it actually ensures that each and every particle is being digested anaerobically. Okay. So bacterial, this is there. Fine, Janish. Uh, I can't read, Shravan, because it's highlighted. So that is
I sent
something.
an other directive without
The
highlighting.
intelligent have installed, that eliminates odor were installed in areas where public urination is a problem, according to a statement from city officials. You know, I think it's basically you pasted the same thing
Yeah,
neat here.
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry, I never.
because the
I don't
highlighting
know
happened
why.
more than it.
Okay. Okay. So the urinals are eco-friendly. They will harness nutrients and waste to produce compost. Yes, fine, because you are been utilizing that, recycling the waste, right, and using it. So it's something similar.
Is it necessary to provide a septic tank if we are using reeds to treat black water?
Yes. It's septic tank is something that becomes like your anaerobic treatment plant. So or your digester tank, all these are nothing but the septic tanks. Yeah, where or your settling tank, anaerobic tank. All these names are of, but you will definitely require one. How is it sizing of the S? It's 80% of the OHT. So whatever
Okay,
water that you
thanks.
have for your OHT, it will be 80%. The septic tank sizing is 80% of the OHT.
No, the reed bed size.
The reed bed sizing, it actually depends on how much area that you require and the capacity, how many liters it's going to run. I will give you those. There are set pattern, there are set numbers. It's like a reference scale.
Okay.
Mhm.
I had another doubt regarding the biodigestive system only.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what happens that people while using WC they also flush wrappers or plastic waste through in the WC. So
Mm.
how is that filtered before all that matter is transferred to the biodigester tank?
That's why you require ICs, you require septic tanks, no?
No, so
There are
they are
there are
filtered in the.
screeners. There are screens which are being placed into the baffle walls, which actually
Okay,
removes all these plastic waste. So that's
okay.
why
So
the chambers are
so
there.
if I'm installing an IC before that matter reaches the biodigester tank, do I also need a filtration tank, or I can
It's
install
not a
those screens in the
filtration tank,
IC?
it's a screening of waste we call it. We don't call it as filtration because it gets
Okay,
mixed up with the idea of the water supply. It's a
okay, okay.
filtration, yeah. It's the filters, the screening of solid particles that you do within the chamber. So you will have, imagine before it goes to the biodigester, you will have to actually have one or two chambers which takes care of all of these.
Okay.
Swati, anything you want to add in any of these questions, please do so.
But I mean, I think everything was covered by nothing I have to add right now.
Oh, okay. Any more questions, guys? Have we? Okay, let me just see if all these things have been. Mm.
I think just one thing I wanted to go back to, the
Yeah.
septic, sorry, not the septic tank, the percolation pit question,
Mm.
where can you connect the percolation pit to the rainwater harvesting tank or any other tank for that matter? If even if if you have a silt trap at the upper level and there is the water enters through a silt trap and then goes to the percolation system, the pipe can be at the upper level or the overflow level and then go to the rainwater harvesting tank. So that's also one way of kind of doing it. So then you can avoid having the pipe at the lower level, correct? So,
Mm.
I mean, I was just wanting to add that as a possibility to look at the
True.
system.
Yes.
I don't know if that I mean if that answers the student's question and he's followed it. But
No, I think it does answer, Swati. At least it helps them to understand that these are the possibilities. So also, guys, repeatedly I'm being mentioning it, or sorry, we have been mentioning it, but you have to also have to understand these are, we are just exposing you different kinds of systems which are available, okay, in the market, or rather used in the market. According to your design, according to your requirement, you can always twist and tweak it. Okay. So technology does have that flexibility. The only thing is you need to know how to do it. And that will only come when you really understand the fundamental principles of these systems. Okay, when we say fundamental principles of these systems, in the sense like the drainage, the first thing drainage works on is the self cleansing velocity. Now, the moment you talk about self cleansing velocity, it is going to come with the slopes. So you can't mess with the slopes. So, in case you want to even alter it, ensure that the slopes are being maintained and taken care of. You can't change that 1 is to 60 ka slope to 1 is to 100 or 200. On rather change it to 1 is to 20 as well at the same time, because you need to know the repercussions of it then. Are you all understanding what we are trying to tell you here? That understand the system, and then according to your requirement, customize it, but don't customize it to such an extent that it's going to fail miserably. So you'll always have to work back and forth that what's available in the market. Okay, first understand what is your requirement. Depending on your requirement, choose the system you want to go for. Okay, when you choose the system, you try and understand what are the requirements of the system, and then run a feasibility test for your own site or your own design, whether the system that I have chosen fits the site that I'm dealing with in. Is it complementing it, or it's going to create me a lot of hurdles because, for example, I don't have space. Okay, wherever I want to put my system, there my vehicular access is going to come, which means my car can't go over my tanks. I'm just telling you, these are peculiar examples. Depending on the feasibility, it will tell you whether the system is going to be apt for you or no. If it's not, then again go back and check which is the alternative system that you can go for. Then again run the feasibility run, and then get on to the details of it and sizing and everything. Because then you know that this is the system that I'm going to use. Then once this is the system, then go for the sizing. Sometimes in some of the decisions, you might have to do the sizing first, because the capacities are the ones which are the design decision drivers. So there is going to be a constant back and forth, and this generally in a professional practice, it happens with your consultants. The whole MEP consultants are going to sit with you constantly and try and have a dialogue with you as architects to understand what fits, what they will provide you in terms of options, that these things are the there. And they will also tell you the limitations of each system as per your site conditions or your building design. And then together you need to come to a good, efficient solution for your client. Yes, Swati, you want to add anything? Uh,
No, nothing.
yeah. So that's why there's nothing like a said rule. Unless it's, see, when wherever there is maths, it's going to be simple, there are going to be quantitative things as well. So it's a simple equation, you apply it, you finish it off. But choice and how do you choose also is a very important phase within the entire architectural design practice. Fair enough, guys? Swati, anything you want to add here? So should we
No,
close
I mean, yeah,
today?
just about now
Yeah.
that we've covered some various aspects of the project, like Kimaya said, most of these are and there are multiple systems, and they can all be used in tandem with each other, and that can keep changing. Whether you want to take it to an X tank and Y tank. I think once you all start putting it in your ideas projects, and if there are drawings that we can discuss on, it'll get drilled in further with more clarity.
Yeah.
I think if there's a if there's a session, Kimar, do you think we should see some of their uh, projects and work
We
with
could
it,
do
or
that. We could do that, but actually, I don't want to have a conflict with their ideas faculties.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
why,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
better that they ask us these questions because these discussions are man. I think within our classes, we should keep last 15 minutes for discussions so they can have that space where they can, show us things and all. We can
Yeah,
always
yeah.
do that.
I was asking from this point of view of, yeah, today,
Yeah.
like, there were so many questions. I think if
Right.
we could just keep some time for
Yes.
that, it would
Yes.
be.
We can always do that. We can do that. Yeah. Let's do that. I think Shravan has a question.
Yes.
About
Yes.
EVs and services, but I read some articles about sustainable and green concrete, and I was wondering how actually sustainable and green that kind of concrete is. Like, is it possible to make it in sustainable even to some degree?
Some degree, fine. I think it might be doable. I have my own issues with those stuff, but it's a whole lot of a different topic altogether, Shravan. It will require a lot of discussions. I'll discuss it with him when you're in the third year.
Right. So is it
Um,
basically like greener than regular concrete, but less sustainable than any other
no,
material
no, no. You
alternatives?
also have to understand that the concrete, see, what happens generally now when we say concrete, the concrete has its own composition, right? There are certain components of it. So when the whole concrete blocks that you see have 60% of fly ash is being used, then it becomes sustainable. It becomes a green product altogether. So you also have to understand what kind of concrete it is. What is the composition of that concrete? Okay, it's not the one that we have learned in the first year. It's cement, gravel and that. So you also need to understand that the slurry or the ashes that have come from is being added. So what happens is the byproduct that you get from the furnaces has been recycled. Okay, so you upcycle the product altogether, and that's how it makes it more sustainable or more greener. Okay, it might not be just the it might not be 100% because also there is a lot of energy that goes in try to create these as well at the same time. Okay, but it's just that it's much more it has less environmental impact, let me put it like that. That makes more sense. It's lesser
Yeah.
in terms of environmental impact compared to the other conventional products, rather than calling them completely green or sustainable,
Right. Because I
because they are
have
just
this.
not natural forms of materials which are being available, right? It's man-made, it's created,
Yeah.
and to create that you are using external energy.
Yeah, because I'm kind of conflicted because I wanted to think of replacing bricks with like concrete panels because they're thinner. So technically
Mm-hmm.
less material is being used and there's a few design choices I could make with that. So I'm kind of weighing the pros and
So,
cons if
so, so
how
you
green
can
concrete.
do it in case you are getting those panels recycled from somewhere. Someone is discarding it, you get it because you had the project at the same time and you happen to construct it at the same time. Then you pick it up from there, you're upcycling the product.
No, I'll probably be because the thing is they'll be curved panels, so they'll be custom made and everything. So
Yeah. So
that's
then
also
maybe run a search to understand whether there are certain panels which are being discarded like that, and from where is there a market from where you can pick it up. Then that becomes like an argument for your IDA studio or your AD studio. Getting it?
right. Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just stop the recording now.
Yeah.